I watched every episode of Tiny Toons for some reason, except that as of right now, I've only watched around 20. There's like 68 episodes left, so it's gonna take like a billion years. But I decided to go ahead and record it now, and this is gonna be reviewing the first 10 episodes, which goes up, which goes up to stuff that goes bump in the night if you're going off the Wikipedia and DVD order. Because for some reason on some orders, Joint the Center Vacuum Makers or Hollywood Plucky, whichever one is later. But also on this order that I'm going off of on a totally official site, says Cinematic is episode 13, but on some orders it's like episode 22 or 23 or something. Super confusing, but it doesn't really matter because there's no continuity and no one cares. So yeah, that's it for the introductions. Or actually, one more thing for the introduction is that you might be wanting to know why I did this. Well, too bad. Anyway, actually, there was no actual reason. It's just a random thing that I thought of. But anyways, let's just go ahead and start with episode 1 of The Lunar Beginning. Boy, well, actually, episode 1 would be The Lunar Beginning. What am I even talking about? Anyway, the first episode, as previously mentioned, is The Lunar Beginning, which features some random animator guy trying to come up with a hit show, and he has to do it by in the morning. So then he draws Buster and Babs, and they come to life, and Acme Acres and Acme University established. Then Monty ends up doing the script because he wants his own show, which he was promised at first, but ended up getting rejected because of how horrible it sounds, I guess. And that's the story. Anyway, this episode gives a 7 Go-Go's out of a possible 10, and the Kennedy cartoons animation has nothing to do with that. Well, even though it is inconsistent, but that's not really one of the major problems I have with it. It's one major problem they have. Well, it's not really. It doesn't really like majorly affect the episode. It made it like marginally worse, but it's that the pacing was kind of weird. There was a bunch of time focused on just random things instead of the main plot being about Monty seeing the scripts, but it only comes in about like halfway through the episode. So yeah. The pacing is the main problem, but there isn't really anything marginally bad. It is just 7 out of 10. Some notes is that there are some deleted scenes which are only available on the DVD version, which are on the original broadcast version or cut for later releases for some reason. But deleted scenes don't majorly affect the viewing experience. It probably made the pacing slightly worse, even though the deleted scenes are just like 2 seconds long. And yeah. Also, a trend with a lot of Kennedy cartoons animated episodes is that Glenn Kennedy, who owns the studio, would animate a lot of stuff for like one particular part in an episode, but for the rest of it, there's barely any of his stuff. And here, there's a lot of Glenn Kennedy stuff at the beginning. It doesn't have as many, I guess, Glenn Kennedy-isms. It doesn't look as horrible, I guess, as other people think, but yeah, it's still there. There's also a couple of scenes reanimated by Wang in there, so yeah, that's something. And on to episode 2. Next up is episode 2, A Quack in the Quarks, where Plucky ends up tricking these aliens disguised as foreign exchange students to think he's some sort of huge hero with all these accomplishments, but then the aliens end up needing him to save the day from Planet X from this obvious parody called Duck Vader. Then Buster, Babs, and Hampton end up finding out, and then they have to save him. This episode is 6 out of 10. It was kind of boring with bad pacing, and also there was a lot of fourth wall breaks that didn't really make any sense, and it was just stupid. I think that the episode's supposed to be sort of grand space age quest adventure, or something along the lines of whatever it was that I just said. But it doesn't really seem that adventurous. It just kind of has bad pacing and things. It's not really one that I'll be looking forward to watching again. Not like that it's bad, just that it's not really a thing that I would ever watch, ever, again. So, yeah, on to the third episode, boy. And this is our first package compilation episode, and it's the first episode aired animated by TMS, so, yeah. Also, the previous episode is animated by Acom, which doesn't really merely impact the quality, so that's why I didn't say it. But for the wraparound segments, Buster and Babs introduced each segment using the highly acclaimed Willow comedy, which doesn't really directly relate to any of the episodes. The first story in this episode is Devil Doggy, where Dizzy gets adopted by Elmira. There's a psycho parody in this episode, and there's one really horrifying looking shot with Elmira. It's probably just the way there was clearly a mouth, just copy pasted and photoshopped onto a background, which makes it so horrifying, which I guess was the point, considering how it's a psychopathy. Anyway, this short, 9 out of 10. Most of the Omara shorts involve, some of them, or a lot of them, later on, basically involve for just torturing animals for comedy. But here, I guess because it was one of the first episodes, so maybe it was just because that the formula didn't get tired out yet. But this one, good, 9 out of 10. Optical Intrusion is a football cartoon. Hooray! It's a 3 out of 10. It's just football getting hit with things. But this time it's football getting 3D glasses stuck on its head. So, yeah, the short 3 out of 10 has a horrible ending with football getting eaten by a dog. That's a funny ending. By the way, it's not, I lied. And then the last one, Win Loser Kaplawi, which is Montana Mac's video game show. And then Buster stops him and there's antics. 8 out of 10. So overall, the episode is 7 out of 10. Mostly being drunk down by the horrendous furball cartoon, which is stupid and unfunny. So, yeah. Anyways, that's it. Uh, anyways, episode 4, which is another TMS episode. Test stress, whichever we call it. So actual wraparound sequences, but in the beginning of each short, Buster kind of has a narration that introduces it. Talking about characters going through tests and things. The first short, Never Too Late to Learn, is a 10 out of 10 classic with Plucky wanting Shirley to channel Einstein into his head to pass a math test, and then it turns out at the end that Einstein flunked math, except for that. That was a rumor that was being spread around, and it turned out to not be true, which just makes it even more hilarious and great. And the second is Little Sneezer, which is a football cartoon, which I thought was going to be horrible, but turned out to be yet again another 10 out of 10 classic. Which is weird considering how the football story I thought would be horrible, but I do like the Sneezy character based on the Sniffles character. I haven't seen any media with the Sniffles character in it, like any full shorts, mostly because they seem boring and horrible and I wouldn't watch them ever. But I like the Sneezer character. To Bleep or Not to Bleep features the highly acclaimed character Foulmouth and Buster trying to teach him not to swear, and it's great. A 9 out of 10 classic. It's just not as good as the other ones, but still great. This episode is overall 10 out of 10. It's the first episode I recommend you watch. You could just skip all the other episodes. Well, maybe not in the beginning, since that it contains some canon events and things, and also like 2/3 of the Wheel of Comedy are good. But if you want to watch one that's completely good and tells you about the quality of the series, then it would be this one. Though not many of the other segments that I watched since this one have actually lived up to this quality, so maybe it's probably just tricking you to thinking that it's going to be better than it is. But anyways, this episode is great. Must watch classics. And on to the next. The Buster Bunny Bunch is next, another TMS episode. Buster starts in a parody of the Mickey Mouse Club in the wraparound segments, which is something that I didn't notice when I first watched it, since it was like a billion years ago before I even knew that the Mickey Mouse Club existed. Also, the Mickey Mouse Club parody segments have nothing to actually even do with the episodes, and one segment doesn't even feature Buster, and also that episode doesn't feature Buster is one of the two where he does a star, so I don't really know what the point of this is, but the first segment is Buffed Bunny, where Buster goes to the gym to impress Babs. This is run by the highly acclaimed character of Arnold, even though Arnold is most of the time incredibly horrible and annoying. What saves this one, besides the TMS animation, is that there's actually a lot of good jokes and slapstick and things, also a hilarious twist ending. Second is Squish. Also, the previous one was 8 out of 10 if I didn't mention it. And if I did, I missed it twice, just so you can remember it. Anyway, the next one, which features Dizzy and Shirley, is Shirley puts a curse on Dizzy to make him bug-sized after Dizzy kills one of her bug friends. So, it's a 7 out of 10. I think it would have been 8 out of 10 if they spent more time as Dizzy being a bug. But, yeah, it's not really bad, just the pacing being weird. The last one is Born to Be Wild, where Babs does impressions and she's being annoying to everyone, and she was less in the end. That's it. And the overall episode is 8 out of 10. It's not as much of a disputed and much-watched classic as the previous episode, but it still has an amazing episode in it. That's it. Boy, not grammar. Next is Her Wacky Highness, which has Babs traveling to Wetland after she's scolded for not having a self-control. I actually watched this episode a little bit before I decided to do this, but I remembered enough about it. So to actually rank it, this episode is 9 out of 10. It's a must-watch classic. Not only is it animated by TMS, but it's also really funny and actually has a great story. Develops the characters and things. Also features Goga, the best character. So that's a plus. Yeah, this episode is great and what was that, homie? Next is Hulbert Plucky, which is another episode from TMS, and about on some orders or episodes or whatever, the episode number and ordering is different. I don't know what the reason is behind that, but it doesn't really majorly affect the viewing, besides just one more TMS episode in a row. Anyway, this episode is about Plucky traveling to Hollywood along with Hampton to sell a script, the Plucky Duck story, to the big director Hollywood. This episode is great. Not only does it feature great animation, as previously, it's also funny, which is the exact same thing they used to describe the previous episode. But, yeah. One problem they have with this one is that the pacing is kind of weird, where it's just kind of aimless most of it, until a random twist ending that comes out of nowhere. But what makes it better than some other episodes that just waste your time is that it's actually entertaining and it's focused more on making you laugh than having a story. And as long as the episode's funny, which this episode is, then it doesn't really rub me the wrong way, I guess. Also, this episode features the great quote of Plucky, where he calls Hampton Hambrain, which I just say like regularly for some reason, and I don't know why. It's just a thing that I did, and that amazing line is courtesy of Sherry Center, who wrote the episode. Next is Journey to the Center of Vacuum Makers, which is another classic. Not only does it feature TMS animation, but it's also really funny, which I said like 2 times previously. But yeah, this episode features Buster and Babs and Plucky and Hampton are trapped in the center of the earth, and there's some gremlins and Montana Max involved. Also, yeah, this episode is great. It's 9 out of 10 classic. It features the first appearance of the Vander Bunnies, a great song at the beginning, and also features an amazing scene where Elmer cracks his head open to represent the Earth and is morphing and shape-shifting his head around. And I think that the incredible amazingness of that scene is not only because of the storyboarders and writers and voice acting and things, also because of TMS animation, because none of the other studios could probably pull it off as well as TMS did, and for that I am thankful. Which pulled his episode up immediately to a 9 out of 10, a must-watch classic. Next is another compilation episode. Anyway, this episode overall is 6 out of 10. It's animated by TMS now, so that's something. First segment, also in the wraparound segment, Buster starts another Mickey Mouse Club parody, which doesn't have anything to do with the episodes, except that now all the episodes feature Buster to some capacity, so I guess it's more interweaving and interwoven together. So, than the previous Mickey Mouse Club parody, the Buster Bunny Bunch. But the episodes aren't as good here. But first segment, Bag That Bunny, is 7 out of 10, which features Calamity trying to catch Buster for Elmira in order to have money. And, yeah, Elmira's being annoying, which he is usually, but this time is less entertaining. Also, Calamity ends up getting tortured at the end, which is horrible. And also reused animation from the incredibly better Double Duck, which brings it down a few points. This reminds me of a way better episode. Next is Lifestyles with Richard Rotten, featuring Buster and Babs trying to have an interview with Montana Max. Then he cancels it to count his money for some reason. So then there's a bunch of Buster and Babs antics, and then Arnold, the character, the highly claimed Arnold, the pitbull character, tries to chase them down. It's good. 7 out of 10 along with Bag That Bunny. The Anvil Chorus is really what brings it to this. Not really that much of a highly able to be watched episode, or that doesn't even make any sense. But the Anvil Chorus is a 4 out of 10. It's basically just the same thing happening over and over, with Plucky getting hit by anvils to the tune of the Anvil Chorus song, which I didn't even know that's actually called, but that's a thing that it was called. But so yeah, that's kind of clever, I guess. Just Plucky being hit over and over, and then just some random stuff. One thing that saved this episode from being extremely horrible is some random dialogue exchanges from Plucky. But it's basically just Plucky being hit with animals over and over, and that's not funny. He's just being tortured for no reason, and I don't find that very hilarious. This episode overall is a 6 out of 10. Don't watch this. Also, a great fun fact, all day back when I first watched Tiny Toons, for some idiotic reason I didn't like it, and this is one of the first episodes that I watched to see if it was good. Not a good decision. Next is the last episode is going to be for this part, which is episode 10. Maybe? Why the hell did I say that? And the last episode of this part is Stuff That Goes Bump in the Night. And in the wraparound scenes, Buster and Babs try to scare each other. So, yeah, I guess it's supposed to be a Halloween episode. Uh, After a string of TMS classics, we get an ACOM episode. For my opinion on ACOM, even though sometimes the animation is really cheap, but then sometimes it's really smooth moments, which is just looks like really weird. But one thing I can say about the studio is that is at least on model and consistent. More than I can say for literally any one of the other studios except TMS. Anyway, the segment in this episode is Homewrecker, featuring Monty building a summer home top of Buster's house, hole or whatever, but then he thinks that he killed Buster, so then Buster is haunting him as a ghost. This one is 7 out of 10. I think it could have taken more advantage of the Buster haunting Monty as a ghost concept. They could have just had him, he's just like traumatized him till he gets PTSD flashbacks, has to go to Dr. Scratch's net for help or something. And yeah, the pacing problem, that's basically, yeah, which is, I guess, a trend in these 7 out of 10 episodes. But, yeah, next one, thank you very much. It features Amara adopting a pet bat that turns out to be a vampire. This one's a 5 out of 10. It's not because of Amara being annoying, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but I actually like Amara. So most of the time when the segments have a low rating, it's probably not because of her being annoying, but it's because of story not really being executed in a way that makes sense and makes it seem like there's actually any jokes or gags or things going on, which is the exact reason why this is a 5 out of 10, with the pacing just being weird and not any time being allowed for anything to even happen. Next is Easy Biter, featuring a mosquito bothering Hampton at night when he's trying to sleep, which is 6 out of 10. It's like a little better than the last one. You can kind of tell what they're trying to do. The pacing is just weird. There's a random stupid ending with a mosquito family coming out of nowhere and going into Hampton's house, but there's an end on him being tortured, and the mosquito and Hampton are friends in the end, so that's good. Overall, 6 out of 10. Not very good. That's the end of this. The end of this review. Look out for part 2, where to discuss the next 10 episodes, or however many I watch by the time I'm done doing whatever it is that I do. So, yeah. Bye.